That's better. I can see both of us now.
You can?
Yeah.
All right.
Apparently we're now live streaming. Let me just check.
This is preparing to live stream.
Let me.
La la la. Slow today. The computer must be cold too. It's taking a long time. It says preparing to live stream and it's doing a little thing.
Yeah. Okay, it's now saying live on Facebook, but it's not telling me that we're live yet here on my phone.
It's not telling me that we're live here on Zoom either.
Wait a minute.
It's saying preparing to live stream. Yeah, it says on Facebook that we're live, but are we?
But it doesn't. Let me just go back and check again. Let's see if I can find us. Yeah, we are. Oh, we are. We're live. And we're all.
We are?
Yep, we're live. There we go. And we've
really? Because it says here that the connection is timed out. Are you sure?
Yeah. It says we had 3 people watching us just staring at our navels. Now we've got 2. Now we've got 3 again. So I think we should start.
Are you sure?
Yeah, look. There we are.
But it's so weird because on my end it says that we timed out.
No, well, we're definitely here. We had 4 people. We've got 4 people again. They think we're completely barking mad.
We are completely mad. Okay, well, this is so strange, but okay, I'm just going to go with it. Hi, everybody. Sorry about that. Technology is not my forte, but fortunately, divorce law is. But I'm Leigh Daniel, and this is not legal advice. This is advice on before, during, and after the divorce. And I'm here with my lovely co-host, Allison Reiner. And Allison, can you tell everybody who you are?
I am, yeah, I can. Thanks, Leigh. Morning to everyone. My name's Allison Reiner, and I'm a Loved Again and Forever coach. And I work with women before they get to Leigh. I work with women to make sure that they're absolutely sure that divorce is the right path for them. Or if they're not, I help them transform their marriage again. So we work quite nicely together. And today we're here to talk about getting ready for divorce, because that's a big thing that I come up with again and again and again is, women are pretty sure, and I'm talking, I work mostly with women, but I think probably, Leigh, this applies to men as well. You'll be able to tell us better. But, when women come to me, they know that they have to go and see a lawyer. They know that they have to face the financial situation. They know that there are certain things they have to do. But the fear of change and the fear of facing up to it sometimes is so huge that they just bury it away. And that keeps them stuck in a loop for such a long time. So today we're here to talk exactly about that, how to get divorce ready so that you don't turn up with all your problems on Leigh's doorstep and she doesn't have to say, this is not legal advice.
I do. I say that all the time. This is one of the prime times when I say this is not legal advice, because a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about today is really practical, really practicalities about what do I need to do to get divorced? And I meet with tons of people that ask me this very question, what do I need to do? And so, Allison, obviously, you talk to people from the emotional side, and I do too, even though I don't get paid for that. I talk to people when I say that this is not legal advice, because a lot of times people just, they want somebody to listen to. They need somebody, they need somebody to listen to them. They want somebody to kind of give them some guidance because they feel so confused. So first, I think, is the emotional piece. So when somebody comes in to see you and says, how do I start? I mean, what do they do emotionally? I mean, what would you suggest?
Well, that's the thing, that by the time they get to me, already they're exhausted, emotionally and mentally exhausted, because you know what it's like. You don't want to face up to it. You don't want to deal with it. You hope, and during the course of everyone's long-term relationships or marriages, we have ups and downs. So quite often you think that it's just another one of those ups and downs, and it pass. And then when it doesn't pass, and you try everything to make it work. You try the romance, you try the pleading, the sweet talking, the screaming, the crying, the accusations, and the list can go on and on and on. So by the time they come to me, these ladies are pretty exhausted, and I'm pretty sure that there isn't any way forward, and divorce is the only route. However, as I said before, the biggest fear, I'll say, and what have you done about it? nothing is always the answer. Always, 90% of the time, nothing is the answer. And if I say why, because it makes it real, and I'm still hanging on to that hope that there is something I can do to save my marriage. So that's the bit that I work with is, okay, let's really look at that. Is there something you can do? And we go through all the emotional stuff. What have you tried? How are you communicating? Do you realize that, sometimes you're communicating from a place of neediness? I need you to understand me. Even if that's not what you're saying, because, so often we get caught up in the words that we use, and the words have got nothing to do with it, as long as the intention is right. So, we go through all that together and build the courage and build this sort of emotional resilience, if you like, in order to be able to go and do that next stage, which is get yourself prepared. But there's also a lot of guilt. There's a lot of guilt that goes with that. Even going to speak to a lawyer, there's a huge amount of guilt, as if they're somehow being unfaithful.
I see lots of hiding too. Yeah. People will have cash and they'll say, I'm going to pay with cash so they won't know that I've been here. Or, I borrowed somebody else's credit card or something like that because they're hiding and they don't want the person to know that they're contemplating divorce. And this happens Allison works with women, but I work with just as many men just as many men as I do women. Try to do a little combo word. And the men have just as many questions about how do I get ready for divorce? And it is important. And I tell people that you took all this time to plan for your wedding, and then you come in here and go, I'm going to get divorced, when you have absolutely nothing in order. And so one of the first things that I say is to really kind of come up with a plan. And one of the first things I do is to tell people to make a budget. Whether they're the primary breadwinner or whether the person that's seeking spousal support or child support or whatever, you're going to have some idea of what it's going to take for you to live on. And that's pretty easy. I mean, just budgetary. And sometimes we just have to brainstorm. I mean, so what are some things that you can think of, Allison, that somebody might want to include in their budget? I can think of the basics, but I don't have children and don't have a husband. So, there are a lot of things that I may not be able to think about. So obviously there's the place you're going to live, you've got utilities and things like that. But what are some things that you may have that you have, if you have children, that I may not be thinking about or may not think about?
I mean, the children's expenses, apart from anything else, just taking a child through the school year with what it costs for books and all the entertainment, their after school sports and all those things cost. And I suppose it depends in which state or which country you live in, how much is, what you're actually expected to pay for. Quite often in the UK, I believe, the child has a different way of being dealt with by the parents. But, so all sort of the child care needs to be taken into account. Do you know how expensive it is to have a nanny or to put your kids into after school care? All of that. And then, clothes. I'm trying to think of all those other things that we need.
We have health insurance costs. We have, and I know some countries they may have health insurance, but especially in the US, you have to pay your own health insurance costs. So there's health insurance, there's non-covered medical for the children, and child support is kind of a separate issue. But when you get a divorce, you're going to need to know how much money am I going to need to pay for the expenses, because you're going to have to contribute, whether you're the one receiving the child support or you're the one paying it, you're still going to have to contribute to your children's needs. So how much money am I going to need? And because you can't really decide if you're paying alimony, how much you can pay, or if you're receiving it, how much you need, until you do that basic kind of computation. And another thing is everybody has to compromise. I mean, you can't expect to go into a divorce with the same amount of money as you have when you're married. I mean, everybody's standard of living is going to change if there's been two incomes. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. And I think that's a really tough thing and that's one of the reasons I'm sure people think about it is, it's not just that your marriage is falling apart, but also the life that you've known, the lifestyle you've known, what you can offer to your kids, the holidays you can take, the freedom that you've had as a married woman or man suddenly disappears before your eyes. And there's a lot of resentment that goes with that. And I'm sure you get the resentment, but on your side when you're talking exactly about that, how are we going to split the money up? And the other thing is being realistic about it. How many times, do you want what just isn't available?
Exactly. Because sometimes there's just not enough money. And so just getting a budget in mind. And what I tell people, if they're like, I don't know where to start. A lot of times they say, I don't know where to start. And I say, okay, figure out what kind of place you want to live in, and then look online, look in the paper, call a realtor, find out how much it's going to cost you to rent a place in your area, then find out if you're going to rent it, how much is insurance going to cost, how much your deposit's going to cost. Get a utility bill from that area. You can find out from the utility department, I think, or at least a realtor. This is what the average utilities run here. How much is cable? So call around, do some research, ask your friend. You can find out. You don't have to go into this completely clueless. You can find out. Some people have no idea. They come in and I say, well, how much is your car insurance? I don't know, they pay it. How much is your cell phone bill? I don't know, they pay it. Okay, so it's time to find out. So even if you don't know, you can find out. You don't have to ask them, but you can find out.
But also, it's about taking responsibility for yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Julie was talking, we should know how much we're spending, whether we're a stay-at-home mom, whether we're working full-time, whether, whatever the situation, we should know the cost of living, because it's something that, it's one of those basics. It's something we have to teach our kids apart from anything else. So you've got to know it yourself. And for me, that sounds like the very first place to start is, getting that knowledge under your belt. It's not just, when we were talking and you mentioned women, it's not just women who don't know, because if you're the man, perhaps that's a primary breadwinner, perhaps, and you've just been depositing your money in a joint account. I've had that situation. I have clients with that situation, and I had a man yesterday with that situation. They just say, wife, take care of the bills, and they don't even look at it. They make the money, they deposit in a joint account, and then they leave that person who maybe doesn't have to go to work to do those accounting, and they don't actually know how much money's going out. So that's something that, of course, we need to know, but especially in a long-term marriage, you start to just, I guess, trust that the other person's going to take care of it. So you don't know. Yeah, no, that's true. And you're absolutely right. I saw a discussion going on the other day about who was the sort of money master at home. And more often than not, it's the woman. I think in our house, it tends to be pretty much 50-50. There are things that my husband will take care of because, well, it's easier for him in Italian. And I tend to take care of the childcare and, all those costs. So we both have our own things. And to be perfectly honest, I ask how much the car insurance is. But if you ask me off the top of my head, I could give you a rough number, within the hundreds, but I wouldn't be able to tell you to the last dollar. And I suppose that is something I'm guilty of myself. Actually, you kind of get complacent with it.
Yeah, and there's no reason to feel guilty. It's just that if you are contemplating a divorce or a separation, then the first thing you need to know is, what do you spend? What do you need to spend? And then how much is it going to need for that basic transition? Deposits, utility deposits, rent deposits, moving expenses. How much is that all going to cost you? And so you have a basic idea before you get started what you're going to need. I've had people, which it's a really super bad idea, but will move out and then go charge thousands and thousands of dollars on new furniture and I'm like, why did you do that? That's not a good idea. Okay, that's not a good idea. If you're going to move out, you don't want to go move out with a lot of debt.
Yeah.
So, you may already have a lot of debt, but if you don't go create it.
Get some.
Wait until you're in a more stable period to buy the new furniture. Go through and this is with an amicable divorce, but even if it's contested down the road, go through and decide how you can divide up the personal property. Most people have more than enough furniture. I know I have stories. If you live in Huntsville, Alabama, then I can give you some stuff. But Don't go to happening.
That's you.
Wait until you're in a more stable period.
You were talking twice at me. You were coming from my phone, and I don't know why you suddenly started.
Oh, well, because I had something important to say, clearly.
Yeah, that's it. It's so important.
So back to that. So go through the house. You don't have to do it when they're there, and kind of decide what it is that you want. And if you're about to move out and you're moving out with no furniture, then take video or take pictures. Because what I see is, and this is something that probably wouldn't occur to you, Allison, because the only reason I know it is because I've done it so much in trial. People will be gone. They'll separate and they'll be gone for a long time, 8, 9, 10 months, maybe longer. They will completely have forgotten what's in the house or what's in the garage. And then they have to rely on the other person to, first of all, they'll say, this was there when I left. But if you don't have any evidence or any proof that it was there when you left, the other person can say, oh, no, it wasn't, that was never here. So it may sound a little crazy, but take a videotape, take a little inventory of what you have in your house, because that's the only way you're going to know if it comes into question later of what you have.
Yeah, and but that makes perfect sense. As somebody that rents property out, I have an inventory. I know exactly what I've left in the house, so that when the new tenants move in, I know what the old tenants have left, what the old tenants have broken. It kind of just makes sense. Also, it allows me to know what I need to buy, what's there. So yeah, it's not something I would ever have thought about, to be honest, and it's not something I would ever have thought to tell my clients. But it makes complete sense. You're not thinking about that sideboard that you've always loved when you're going through all the emotional stuff of settling down somewhere else and getting the kids into school and all that nice stuff. The sideboard or your favorite bed or your lamp or whatever is the furthest thing from your mind, I suppose, until everything calms down. That's such a good thing to do.
And something else along with that you prompted me of thinking of was, while you're doing that, if you have some extra time on your hand, write down where you got that piece. If it is a sideboard, was it a gift? Like in some states, if it's a gift, then you can keep it. It's yours. If it was an inheritance, you can keep it. It's yours if you inherited it. Or if the other party inherited it, it's theirs. If it was a joint purchase, then it's something that will be divided. There'll be a division of property. So it's important to have a clear idea of, these are the antique pictures that I got from blank. These are the pictures that I got from wherever. And sometimes we have like military memorabilia, or we have things like that. And that's important to note too. If you were stationed in Germany and you bought, I forgot those big glasses, those big mugs you drink beer out of. If you bought a bunch of those, you want to write that you have a collection of these beer steins. That's what they are. Because later on, even after you're out of the house, you may say, I want my beer signs. The judge will go, how many are there? And you need to know.
Yeah.
So it's a little tedious, but especially in a long-term marriage. And I get people that go, I just want to leave it all. But again, that's not smart, because I know you may want to start over with all new stuff, but do that when you're in a more stable situation. Take half of the old beat up pots and pans.
That's what I hear more often than not. And that was one of the reasons that I wanted to address this at some point was, so many people just, they just want out. And apart from being irresponsible from a financial point of view, it's also irresponsible from an emotional point of view, from a point of view of moving forward in life. Because if you don't deal with the financial side now, if you don't deal with the emotional side now, it'll come back and bite you in the bum. Yeah. You'll need to deal with it at some point. So, whilst you're still in that fairly secure situation of being in the marital home, being in the marriage, look at all these things. Take time. There's no rush. For heaven's sake, you didn't decide you wanted to get divorced overnight. Another 2 months, 3 months, 6 months isn't going to make any difference at all in the grand scheme of things, but it will make a huge difference in the way that you're able to approach divorce, in the way that you're able to leave the relationship. And, the less you have to fight about financially, emotionally, who's going to get, Auntie Jean's beer mugs or lamp or whatever.
Jean was a lush.
She had gin beakers. I'm sure she did. But surely, the less you give yourself to argue about it, the easier it has to be, because it's, we're never going to create the perfect divorce where you sort of turn up, you shake hands, you kiss each other on the cheek, and you go your separate ways. It can't happen. You loved them. There's all the emotion involved. There's all the love involved. There's all the disappointment that love has disappeared. So there's going to be hurt. There's going to be anger. But there are ways to keep it to the minimum. There are ways to do it in as loving and as caring way as possible, and keep all the hurt and the anger to a minimum. Don't.
Yeah. The more, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, the less you have to argue about, and really the less unknown there is, because I think that change triggers a lot of fear. Change is scary, and people are freaked out about how they're going to manage things. So the more you can know, the better off you are. And so another thing that I thought about while you were talking is that if you have debt, if you have a vehicle, if you have credit cards, if you have loans, you may want to check, can you refinance that? Can you refinance your vehicle to just in your name? Can you refinance the house if you want to stay in the house? You can do all of this kind of research under the radar. You don't have to share that. It is part of like the divorce planning process. The court doesn't normally make you refinance cars, but if you have that ability to get that other person's name off the vehicle, or if there's a loan that you can consolidate, look at all the debt. How's it going to be apportioned? Burying your head in the sand is not going to help, because people come in to see me after they've gone through their divorce, and believe it or not, there are lawyers out there that don't have a holistic approach, and they haven't even thought of that, and they come back to see me and they're like, look what a mess I've gotten myself into. You have to figure it out before you sign on the dotted line. If you sign, it's filed and the court orders it, it's too late.
So you can't go back and read
to help you after that.
So something I was thinking about when you were speaking was, and it's not, I don't tend to see this type of client, but I've got peers who deal very much with women who are stay-at-home mums maybe, or stay-at-home, they don't have a job, and therefore they don't have access to money to have, to come and see you, for instance, or to come and see a lawyer. What's available for them? What paths do they have to?
I have this situation a lot too, and sometimes I try to work it out the best I can to help the person, maybe by saying, if you can pay a flat fee, if you can just borrow this much money. But and other states have opportunities for you to file a motion with the court and get your legal fees paid for. We don't do that very often, but I do know that law is about to be enacted here. But it's really tough. I mean, and that is one of the worst situations, is to feel completely stuck, completely cut off from money. And unfortunately, when things go bad, a lot of time that's when a partner that's a little more manipulative and sneaky will start hiding money from you, because they don't want you to get a hold of money to be able to hire a good lawyer or something like that. So, you may want to talk to your family, your friends, to see who can help you, who's willing to help you, see if you can get a loan. If you have good credit, you might be able to get a loan, even if you're not employed, or you can put the legal fees on your credit card, and then you can hope that your spouse will have to pay in the end. There's not an easy answer for that, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I suppose that goes back to that sense of responsibility earlier on in the relationship. It's great, we're two people, we're madly in love, but still we have to be responsible for our own parts within the marriage, and that means at least make sure you've got your own money somehow, even if that's that's just your housekeeping plus what you need to live on. I still find it terrifying that there are women out there that are literally living hand to mouth because their husbands give them X amount each week. And that's something that that has to be dealt with, because that is a lack of self esteem. That's a lack of belief in your own position and within the marriage. To be a mother, a stay-at-home mother, is a really important job. If you were to employ somebody to come and do that day in, day out, you would spend thousands each month to do what you do, and yet you would allow somebody to give you £150 or $150 a week to run the house. And I've heard of it happening.
And so, again, I want to just remind you that there are men in exactly the same
The same
situation.
position, yeah, yeah.
Because whether they're stay-at-home dads or they're the people who are working, and the one party has control of the money. And I hear that all the time. My wife gives me $150. Now, this person still has access to the joint funds, hopefully. I met with someone yesterday who didn't have access to the joint funds, and they have $100,000 in the bank, and his name's not on it. And I was just like, oh my gosh. But anyway, there are plenty of situations where the wife will go, here's $150 for your lunches, your blah, 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 blah. And they don't have any more money, or they don't, so it happens both ways. You're more about, and I know you work with women, but these things are just as important. And I'm absolutely with you. You have got to take responsibility way before this and make sure that you're not left with no money, no way to get money. I mean, it's a, that it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way, whether you're getting divorced or not. You should have some access to some money. And like Allison said, you should be on the joint savings account. You should be, you should have some equal access. And if you have equal access, even if you don't work, then you can use that money.
Yeah. No, it's incredibly important. And I keep talking about women, but you're absolutely right. Again, when I think back to the number, even my mum giving my dad his money to go and buy his beer or to go and buy his newspaper, and he was the one that was bringing the money into the house. Yeah, different generation, and it's not something that I ever thought to fall into, but yeah, we do fall into the patterns of it. And it comes from, of course it comes from love. We love each other so much, nothing can go wrong. We're so different from everyone else, but we might not be in the end. So let's just take care, and let's just make sure that we're both catered for if anything does go wrong. And if you have that,
just having some feeling of empowerment that you're not at anybody's. But nobody has control, but that's a whole other situation, really, and another conversation about money. And we'll have a money expert on. I know tons of them. But another thing that, before I forget, is that it's important for you to know about your health care coverage. How much is it going to cost you if you don't have it? Or how much is the family plan? How much is dental insurance? How much is vision insurance? How much are your medications? You need to find all of that out, because that can change depending on the healthcare. So maybe you work someplace that has Rockstar health insurance and it costs you almost nothing. Okay, you're on your own and you've got a Blue Cross Blue Shield policy, single or whatever, and it doesn't cover all that. I mean, these are just, look at the big picture, look at the whole year, see what are the costs that could be involved. And not even to get money from somebody else, but just so you're going to know, right? So you kind of have an idea. And another piece is life insurance. Do you want life insurance? Do you need life insurance? Is there life insurance coverage from either your perspective or the other party's perspective? And then I'm about to sneeze. There also is retirement. So as I sneeze, do you have anything you want to say about that?
Because when you were talking, that was something that that came up. So that's a big thing, especially working in Italy, because we're somewhere between the UK's version of the National Health Service and the American way. So part of it's state run, part of it is that we put money into. And I was thinking of that, whilst I was stay at home with my kids, and when they were very little, everything was covered. All my healthcare was covered. My dental bills were covered. Once I started to work, of course, I had to do my own thing. But, if I was still a stay-at-home mum, that's something I wouldn't have thought to take into account. But on the other side, the pension, you were talking about the pension, that's something that, they brought this in the UK a few years ago, and I think they've changed it. That is something that you are entitled to. And it's something that you have to really make sure that you're informed about, because it's easy to be hidden. It's also easy, and I've seen this happen, when there's a hint of uncertainty in the air, the husband or the wife stops paying into the pension policy. Why? Because they don't
want to divide it.
Yeah, exactly. They don't want to divide it, and they want to divide it only up to the point that they've paid into it at that point. And then, of course, they all these things that we don't think about. And going back to what I was thinking about right at the beginning, or what I've heard so many times, is, I feel guilty about getting informed. Don't. You don't have to go through with it. You don't have to sign on a dotted line anywhere, but you can't make an informed decision. You can't even make an emotional decision unless you know what you've got to, what you're going to lose, if you like, what you're financially, what you're going to lose, what your situation is going to be. And then you can play back. Is this bad enough to leave? Do I have to leave, or am I prepared to do something to make it work?
This is where we have the disconnect between the two of us, because if somebody comes in to see me, and I'll say, you need to get a divorce, because I mean, and I'm sure that, and certainly I'm going to support people, whether they want to stay married. I'm going to be like, work on your marriage, but I don't, for me, there's nothing more important than being happy. And so, financially, and I've had this conversation before, people say, I have a nice house, or I have this or that. And I say, is that as important as your happiness? I mean, another house, can you get more furniture? Could you have a little while, and because really, I think, and again, that's another topic, but I think happiness is more important than those things.
Those material things, absolutely. But, I would never tell somebody to stay. I've never recommend anybody stay if they're not happy. But often we miscalculate. Miscalculate, that's the wrong way to put it. We feel we've got no choice. We don't, there seems to be nowhere to go because you feel like you've done everything.
Yeah.
But I'm talking, the same people that are in that place are also the same people that are terrified to do exactly what you've been explaining, work out the finances, work out, even thinking about the vision beyond their marriage. They can't get to that because they're stuck in this place here. And when I see something like that, I really think that you need to work on yourself and your own issues before you make a decision on leaving. And if you don't, you find yourself in that position where there is no choice, because it does deteriorate. And you reach the point where they come to you and you say, look, love, there is nowhere to go with this. You need to get divorced. So, whilst there is still something to play with, I always suggest that you look at it carefully. Certainly with never, ever, ever, if there's any abuse of any description, then, you're out immediately. I'll come and pick you up in the car and we go together. We do Thelma and Louise and we get wherever we have to go. But, that goes without saying.
And Allison, so I lost my train of thought, but I was thinking that, we're talking about, we have been mentioning people who are planning for the divorce, and you mentioned the uncertainty. So if you don't want the divorce, but you can see the writing on the wall, you still need to do this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're thinking about, Allison was talking about people who are like contemplating it. Maybe that's the last thing on earth that you want. You do not want a divorce. But if you start seeing the telltale signs that, they're not coming home, you can see them on the phone all the time with, lots and lots of stories, and we have that intuitive sense. We can sense something's wrong. Please don't bury your head in the sand, because that's what you want to do. You can't bear the thought that this is going to end, or, but you really need to get yourself situated. You need to get ducks in a row. If you feel that, I'm pretty sure they're going to leave me, they're not. Because I see some people that absolutely don't want the divorce, but you have to still do this planning, because you don't want to be in a situation where you've been served divorce papers, and all of a sudden you're completely lost. So even if it's painful, do that for yourself. But I think, I can't tell you 100%, but I think it's going to make you feel better and more empowered to know, well, I don't want this, but if this is what's going to happen, then at least I'm prepared,
Yeah, but, it's something to do even before you have that inkling, even before you have that sense of intuition. It's something to do now. If you're just playing about with the idea, I'm not sure if I'm happy, do it now, because it does give you choices and it does empower you. You're taking action. You're not reacting to somebody else's desire or non-desire. You're taking action for yourself. So even if it's just that inkling that you're not happy yourself, do it. Get informed. It's not, you're not going behind anyone's back. You're doing it for yourself. And also, again, go back to what you were saying earlier, Leigh, it also helps to, if you're both informed, you both know what your rights are. it's going to make a much easier conversation. Get to the lawyer's office, because you're not fighting over unknowns.
And what I want to talk about the pensions, you mentioned the pensions and the retirement. So there are pension plans, there are 401ks, and this is in the US. There are IRAs, there are annuities, there are stocks. I hope I'm not forgetting anything. There are all kinds of different retirement plans. Profit sharing. I think I mentioned most of them. If I haven't, remember, this is not legal advice. Let me just put a little caveat. But whatever it is, you need to know what, especially in our state, you have to have been married for 10 years, and the law is changing on that. But you need to know what the retirement assets are, both of you and of your spouse. Now, a lot of people have no clue what's in the retirement assets of their own, much less their spouse. But you need to know. You need to know who has the retirement assets. People will come in and say, oh, they have 2 401ks. From where? I don't know. So you have to go through the expensive process of discovery. You know, you should have that information. They're going to have to give that to the tax professionals. So, you know, if they have interest or things like that, you need to know. You need to know where the tax returns are. You need to know how much everybody made last year. And it seems, you know, it seems like people would know that, but far often than not, people don't have any idea. And I just really urge you to take part in the financial situation wherever you are, however much money you have, so you know where, you know what's at play. And yeah, that's a big one. That people don't have a clue. People don't know. And you're right, they'll stop. Or how much do you have in savings? Or is there another bank account? Or is somebody giving money to their mom? Or like the guy I talked to yesterday, he said, oh, she's been giving money to her mom. How much? He doesn't have any clue. And, you know, there's just a lot that you need to know. And, you know, the financial piece is really just a little bit of the divorce planning piece.
Yeah, exactly. And that was what, when you were talking, I was thinking, okay, this is a lot. And of course it must be, you know, I'm sorry, everybody, it might be quite overwhelming listening to it, but it's such an important part of it. It's such an important part of life, full stop. You know, to know where you are financially, to understand what's going on in your bank account, in your partner's bank account, whether you can afford to, you know, buy the big Christmas tree or the medium-sized Christmas tree. You know, we should all be paying much more attention. And I'm thinking, shit, I'm going to have to go off and have a good look at mine, because I'm the worst for it. But, you know, are there other aspects?
Well, that's why we're not financial advisors.
Yeah, exactly. Are there other aspects that people should be looking at that they're not by the time they come to talk to you, that you have to sort of send them off to do research on?
Well, I mean, so we've talked about the financial, and I really think that, you know, there are tons of issues around your children that maybe we should talk about at a different time, because really, I send people off to do this kind of groundwork first. You know, if they say, I'm thinking about divorce, I'm going to do it then, I always say, this is what I want you to do. This is how I want you to. And, you know, the best advice that I started giving people is something you said our very first call, and that is to decide what you want, and then to visualize having the life that you want. Because when they can't see their way through, you know, that was great advice. You know, look at, well, how do you want to feel? You know, how do you want this to look? And I think that's really empowering and really super helpful.
Yeah, because as you say, unless you have an idea that life can be a bit better, you're going to stay stuck. You're going to bury your head in the sand. All these issues become so overwhelming that the idea of going to talk to the tax man or even open your bank statement fills you with such dread that you put it away for another day, and another day ends up being another year or another 6 months. And it just drags on, and you're not getting any happier in that period. Right. And you get to the end of the line is you have no choice. The only choice is, I'm going to get divorced now. And then everything is there in your face at the one time. I have to go and talk to Leigh, and I have to find out about my financial situation and the childcare situation and the pension and the instead of doing it one step at a time, as and when you're feeling reasonably okay about it.
And there shouldn't be any fear in finding out where you are financially when it comes to your spouse. If they don't want to tell you, then I think that's a situation that, you know, we'll talk about another time. But anyway, so if you're planning to get divorced, then these are just some things that we want you to think about. And in the coming weeks, we're going to have some experts on money, on weight, on depression, on what else? On self-esteem.
Self-esteem, yeah. We've got the whole gamut.
Yeah, we have tons of professionals lined up, and we hope that you've enjoyed today. We hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. I know you guys don't have Thanksgiving, do you, Allison?
We don't, but we do quite like to celebrate it just on your behalf. Now it's becoming quite big here just to do something. I think it's because of Black Friday, but no, we'll be working on we'll be working on
Who doesn't have shopping?
Exactly.
So thanks everybody, and thanks to Allison, and I hope you have a Merry Thanksgiving and Merry Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving and a very Merry Christmas, but we'll see you before Christmas.
We'll see you before Christmas. So bye, and have a great day.
Yeah, bye-bye.